Hey there guys, Robert here, and welcome to episode 2 of RobGioRanks. In this series, I rank tracks on an album from worst to best, and then explain my overall thoughts and opinions on that album at the end, followed by a rating. For this episode, we're in for something special, because I'm going to be ranking this Flight Facilities album called Down to Earth. This is the debut full-length studio album from Australian electronic music duo Flight Facilities, consisting of Hugo Grossman and James Lyell. This album was also certified gold by the end of 2015 and was also nominated at the 2014 ARIA Music Awards for Album of the Year and Best Cover Art. Wow, they really have an award category for Best Cover Art. That's really cool, actually. Anyways, I discovered this album thanks to none other than Siraman, a YouTuber whose content I have been watching for about a couple months now, probably since October 2020. One time, I watched the second part of his top 100 favorite tracks of all time, and he ranked Clair De Lune, one of the tracks from the album, at number 1. So as a result of that, I thought I'd give this album a listen, and I could definitely see why this is Ben's favorite album of all time. This album is damn near perfect, and spoiler, this was very, very close, and I mean very close, to a solid 10 out of 10 for me. Not only does this album have a lot of balanced variety from down-tempo tracks to house tracks to indie pop tracks, but also this album resonated with me very quickly in a way that no albums can, and I think I'm ready to start going over my ranking right about now. Before I go over my ranking, however, I just want to say this is all my opinion and you can feel free to either agree or disagree with me. This ranking is not based on popularity, but rather on personal enjoyment and nostalgia. Also, please try to not take my opinion too seriously, and if you think your favorite track from this album is not ranked high enough in my ranking, then that's fine too. Just make your own ranking. So now, without any further ado, let's get started. Kicking things off at number 14, I have placed Crave You, Reprise. So this is basically just a short cover of the original song sung by none other than Kylie Minogue. And that's it, really. I really have zero urge to return to this when the original Crave You exists, but I won't deny that Kylie's vocals on this one are pretty damn good. Therefore, it's a pretty nice interlude on the album. That's all I gotta say. Next, at number 13, I have placed Intro. Okay, now this is a fitting intro for an album like this. There's no other way for me to say this, but this one really fits the theme of the album extremely well while simultaneously sounding unique in its own way. The xylophone and marimba melody that I heard in the first half reminds me of that chime melody NBC used for their snake logo. The strings that happen in the second half are really beautiful, and it also makes a really nice transition into two bodies very nicely at the end. Kind of like the transition from the track Genesis to the track Song the Wounds on Pendulum's Immersion. It also contains this airport announcer giving out information and instructions about the supposed flight on the track, which also fits well in an opener to this kind of album. Overall, it may be in my bottom 2 on my list because it's just an intro for what you're getting into, but this one quickly became one of my all-time favorite intros to any album on first listen. Neat! Next, at number 12, I have placed Merimbula. Out of all the full tracks on the album, this is the one that I have the least amount of urge to return to, and is the reason why this album as a whole is shy of a solid 10 out of 10 for me. That might have been hurtful for me to say because, like I said, this album is damn near perfect. But that's not really saying much when even this track is at least pretty great in my eyes. This one is really calming. I really like that blipping sound that plays throughout the track, the pads make me feel calm too, and the vocal samples are pretty nice. My only criticism with this track is that some of the other vocal samples are barely audible and the beat is kinda repetitive, making this track drag on a teeny bit too long at 6.5 minutes. But other than that, it's a pretty great track to me that's really cool both inside and outside of the album, even if this track is one of the slightly weaker cuts on the album for me. Next, at number 11, I have placed Stand Still. This track is really unique. The way that the clock ticking sounds contrast very well with this well-produced beat and that really catchy whistle melody is really satisfying. Not to mention that the production on this track is also pretty smooth and calming as well. Mickey Green also gives a really great vocal performance on this track, and the hook is pretty awesome too. The ending to this track is pretty cool too, because the acidish synth bass does a really great job at blending in with the sound of this song. Overall, even though I don't have anything left to add about this song, it's still a pretty great one at that, and I recommend listening to it. Great stuff to be sure. Next, at number 10, I have placed Waking Bliss. This is also a really unique addition to this album that I really enjoyed a lot. The strings section and melody in particular are really beautiful, and it does a really great job at blending in with that really cool bass and impressive beat. I swear, this track reminded me a little bit of 2 tracks from Daft Punk's Discovery. Probably somewhere between Night Vision and Something About Us. The inspirational vocal sample that is used in this track in particular really fits on here and sounds like this person has so much wisdom. Not to mention that All Eye's vocals towards the end of this are really beautiful. This track as a whole really makes me feel like I'm an astronaut ready to land on another planet. Kinda like the album cover. Overall, even though it feels like an extended interlude on here, I still think that it's a welcome addition to this magnum opus of an album. Next, at number 9, I have placed Two Bodies. What a really smooth house cut on the album. The sound design on this track is absolutely atmospheric, and Emma Louise's smooth vocals on this track really fit on here. The hook on here is really fantastic, and the pads on this track also give me more of a warm feel on here. The vocal sample on here, once again, really fits on here, and sounds like the person speaking has some wisdom under his belt. I mean, you gotta love the inspirational vocal samples, man. I mean, I'm a sucker for those. The drum pattern and percussion on this album also reminds me a bit of Bibi the Encore from Aphex Twin's Drugs. Because the percussion on this track, it also has like bongos in it, but like, whatever. Overall, this track is really awesome and is a prime example for songs on the album with serene sounds like this. That's really all I gotta say here. Next, at number 8, I have placed Hold Me Down. And holy hell! The 80s aesthetics on this track are absolutely stunning from head to toe, making it one of the best examples of just how balanced the variety of this album is. Steve Downes' energetically deep vocals fit with this really upbeat pop production. Also, some of the melodies are really fun and the hook on here is really catchy. Speaking of the hooks though, I love how every time the hook shows up, the sound of a choir gets thrown in there for good measure. Like, that's amazing. Another really noticeable thing that I can point out is that around the 4-minute mark, there is this saxophone solo, which really adds to this song, and I don't know why, like, it's amazing. This song also has a connection to personal experience, because this song actually reminds me of songs that I listened to on the SiriusXM Studio 54 radio station that my dad would put on the way to my music producing lessons every Tuesday. Overall, this song is really amazing and shows that this album can really shine when it comes to uniqueness and cohesiveness. Fantastic track. Next, at number 7, I have placed Crave You. I saw from Searman's collaborative ranking on this album that this track is considered to be an Australian EDM classic. And I guess it's not hard to see why, from its infectious melody to its phenomenal production. I would also like to add that this song came out all the way back in 2010, making it the lead single for this album. This album, however, came out in 2014, and yet this track sounds so fresh today and does not feel out of place here. I really don't know how the electric pianos gave me this 70s tinge to them, but it kinda does to my mind. Also, Giselle Rosselli's vocal performance is really great on here, and the hook is once again really damn catchy as all hell. As for other aspects of the production on this track, the synth bass is really awesome and blends well with the electric pianos. The marimba melody that appears at the 2:48 mark is really catchy. The flute melody played around the 3-minute mark is really beautiful as well, and the sax solo played at the end is really fun and impressive. Therefore, even though this track admittedly does not end the album with a bang here, it makes for a fairly satisfying closer on this album and is a serious highlight on here, so that's not saying much. Next, at number 6, I have placed Heart Attack. Now, okay, wow, this song is really amazing. For one thing, the production is absolutely stunning, and 2, All Eye's smooth vocal performance is literal perfection on this track. The sound design on these pads are absolutely beautiful, the chord progression on here clean as fuck. The hook is yet again catchy, the bass is really cool, and the low synth arpeggios that go ba-ba-da-bum, 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 ba-ba-da-bum are also inescapable from my mind as well. I really don't have anything else to say about this track. It is seriously a must listen and really justifies its 6-minute length, so it doesn't feel overly long in many parts. Go listen to this track, it really is something else. Fantastic track to be sure. Next, at number 5, I have placed Sunshine. So this song is really special, like really special. I generally have never heard a song that sounds like it's so happy to be alive like Sunshine is. Not to mention that it's also a funky little cut on here, especially with those wah guitars. Reggie Watts is a serious challenger as my favorite guest on the entire album. He has a ton of personality and energy on this track. The hook on here is on par with the title tracks as the catchiest hook on the album, and we'll get to the title track later on. Also, the summer solstice is on the way in June where I'm from, so putting it on in the summer makes me go, damn, what a vibe. I also would like to mention that the gorgeous melodies on top of that also really fit on here, especially at the 134 mark where you get those xylophones, and especially at the 243 mark where you get this really awesome guitar melody. Overall, this song is also a must listen and really is a nominee for the happiest song I've ever heard in my lifetime. Next, at number 4, I have placed Apollo. This is seriously an awesome song with so much progression and impressive vocals from Katie Noonan. Like, holy shit! The way she hit those high notes... Someone give her a Grammy, please. And on top of that, the thunder rumbling in the beginning is absolutely ingenious, and the string section that plays throughout most of the track is absolutely beautiful. The atmospherical house production on this thing is absolutely stellar. The 909 beats on this thing remind me a bit of Revolution 909 from Daft Punk's Homework. And again, Katie's vocal performance, man, Jesus Christ. It gave me chills. So overall, this song is a song that I recommend to you guys because not only is the production on this track absolutely awesome, as I mentioned already, like always, but Katie's vocal performance really has to be heard to be believed. It really is impressive. Next, at number 3, I have placed Down to Earth. This is easily the catchiest track on the whole album, and also an absolute banger. I agree with Ben in that it also works as an energy rebuilder after Why Do You Feel, and we'll get to that track later on. The production on this thing is absolutely dope, the vocal samples from Dennis Dowlett are pretty awesome, and that bass line is pretty catchy as well. I really got nothing much to say about this track though, but it's a track that works well in the context of the back half of the album, and simultaneously makes me want to get up and do a stupid dance in the center of my room. Awesome track. Next, at number 2, I have placed Why Do You Feel. At last, we have finally made it into my top 2. And what a better way to start talking about my top 2 on this album than to talk about this one. This song is this high on my ranking because not only is this track another unique track on this album as the hip-hop production is pretty fire, but also is ranked up this high because of its lyrical content. The lyrics were so interesting that I had to go look the song up on Genius, and it turns out that the lyrics on this track are really damn relatable. According to Genius, this song is about a young man who has feelings for a woman he was talking to and wants to start a romantic relationship with her. But that woman is unwilling to pursue the possibility of a relationship with him. Just, do you have any idea how relatable this song is? It literally says in the first verse, "'Cause you and the system giving them tuition, and yes, I respect your position, but I'm just saying that your brain ain't missing, so while you playing these games, let me listen." Like, if this one has some of the highest levels of relatability I've ever seen in the set of lyrics, then I really don't know what is. And on top of that, Neru's rap flow is impeccable, and the hook is really catchy too. Overall, this song is absolutely impressive, and I recommend this track to anyone who can relate heavily to what Bishop Neru is saying in this song. And only one track on the album tops it for me. And I think you can see it coming miles and miles away. And finally, at number 1, I have placed Clair De Lune. I know, obvious pick is obvious, but if I can be real straightforward with you, this song is an instant 10 out of 10 song for me. I mean, where do I begin with this? No, really, where do I begin with this? Phenomenal down-tempo production, beautiful vocal performance from Christine Hoberg, stunning melodies, gorgeous string section in the second half, rest in peace, Wreckful, your legacy will live on forever. Like, seriously, when I found out that this was the last song Wreckful listened to before he died, my heart shattered into smithereens, because this is the kind of track that just resonates with me on such an emotional level that no other track could reach in my eyes. The moment I listened to the entirety of its 7-minute running time, I immediately qualified it into my personal list of my favorite tracks of all time, placing it at number 4. Not only does it have perfect production, beautiful vocals, and gorgeous melodies and string sections, but its lyrics are also meaningful somehow because according to Genius, the lyrics are about losing love. And did I mention that it's 7 minutes long? Like, it really justifies its length, so therefore it feels repetitive 0% of the time. I got nothing much to say about the song. This song is definitely an immaculate masterwork of art, and I can clearly see why this is Searman's favorite track of all time. This song really gets my recommendation to the highest degree because it really is one hell of an essential song to listen to. Perfect song, I dare say. So yeah, that was Down to Earth, and oh my freaking god, this has to be in my top 10 favorite albums of all time. Point blank, period. It really and truly is a must listen in every sense of the word. In fact, to say that it is a must listen is truly an understatement. This is just one hell of a trip from start to finish. It feels like I'm watching a movie about going on an airplane and going to a planet that I have never discovered before, discover new extraterrestrial life. Much like the album cover, obviously. Just hell, I want to live inside the album cover for God's sake, if that were even possible. The transitions from track to track are also damn seamless. Especially the transition from the intro to Two Bodies, and especially the transition from Apollo to Clair De Lune. Which proves to me that the storytelling and world building on this album is impeccable. And like I mentioned before, the variety is so perfectly well balanced. You got down-tempo and house tracks like Down to Earth, you got brilliant and out-of-the-box ideas like Sunshine and Hold Me Down, and you even got songs that have meaning and emotional resonance like my top two, Why Do You Feel and Clair De Lune. And yeah, I really got nothing much to say about this album, other than that this is a magnum opus of an album that was so close to getting a solid 10 out of 10. But I'm going to give it the strongest, closest possible 9.7 out of 10. So what do you think about Down to Earth? If you have any thoughts on it, then I suggest leaving it down in the comment section down below. The Spotify link to this album will also be linked in the description down below if you want to give this album a listen. If you have any albums you want me to rank next, feel free to leave your suggestions and recommendations in the comments. Also, be sure to like this video, share this one with your friends if you want to, and leave a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe as we're on the road to 6,000 subscribers. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, guys.